Stanford University.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. And so I'm Sister True Dedication, and I'm here with Brother Phaphu, with you from Plum Village, France, our monastery founded by our teacher, Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh. And as some of you know, one of our most powerful practices in our tradition and that our teacher has developed and offered the world is the practice of walking meditation. And this morning we have this session for us to transmit to you some of the essentials of this practice, but we will try out this practice together so we can really transmit to you from our hearts and from our own way of practice how you can also go deeply and really enjoy and find healing with this practice and also connect to the earth with this practice. So Brother Phaphu will share with us. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Before we start, I just want to invite us to just have a moment to come back to our breath. In Plum Village, we always like to start our sessions with 3 sounds of the bell. And the sound of the bell is an invitation for us to pause and come back to ourselves. So in this practice, we will connect to our breath, become one with the breathing. Just recognize the breath. There's no effort. The breath is just happening, and we allow ourselves to be present with the breath. As I breathe in, I'm aware that this is my in-breath. As I breathe out, I am aware that this is my out-breath. In-breath and out-breath. I listen. This wonderful sound of the bell guides me home to the present moment. Dear friends, thank you for practicing breathing with the sound of the bell. This morning, we have a chance to introduce one of our core teachings in the Plum Village tradition. And this practice is called walking meditation. Walking meditation is an art. We walk every day from one destination to the other, but do we remember the first step that we took this morning? Did we feel the earth? Did we feel the contact of our 2 feet on this planet? So walking meditation, first of all, allows us to be connected to life, because the earth is carrying us, is holding us. But most of the time we walk like we are being chased around. Sometimes we go somewhere without even knowing why we are walking. And so in Zen, in meditation, one of our first wings is to learn to pause, learn to know how to stop and to be in the present. And walking meditation can support us. And first, I want to share with you the history of walking meditation, because it comes from the suffering of the war. So our teacher is Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh, and he was a young monk during the war. And as a young monk, he wanted to find a way to bring peace and understanding to the suffering that was all around Vietnam at that time. He was one of the young, bright monks that can speak English very well and can speak French very well and can connect very well. So he was supported by the organization to go to the US and to other countries in the West to bring more understanding of what is really happening in Vietnam during the war. When he was in America in 1966, he suddenly got informed that he is now exiled from Vietnam. And when he received this news, he was in so much suffering. He doesn't know what to do and how to continue his aspiration. He was one of the young monastic leaders with groups of young monks and nuns and lay practitioners who didn't want to contribute to the fighting, but wanted to help rebuild bombed villages, help with the orphans, and etc. And suddenly he was informed that because of his activity, they saw that he is not contributing to the country, and they exiled him. And in that moment of despair and in that moment of deep suffering, he came back to his breathing, and he had to be present for those feelings and for those emotions and all of this fear and possibly also anger. But being still sometimes can be very overwhelming. So later on, he started to bring the practice of mindful breathing into walking. As we know, sometimes when we are in a place for so long, staying inside for so long, we feel like we need nourishment, and that nourishment may be nature, right? It may be the fresh air, it may be just the environment, and to connect to something bigger than us, which is this beautiful planet. And our teachers started to establish this practice because the mind can bring us into 10,000 directions from all of these feelings, all of these emotions, all of these difficulties that are present. But as a practitioner, we know that we can be the master also of our own mind. So our teacher started to bring his mind and give it a focus, and we call this the practice of concentration, and to bring all of his attention and bring this emotion and let it take refuge in the sole of the feet, and let yourself really just be present with each step that you take. And a new insight was born in this practice. And our teacher called it one of his first flowers of understanding. And that flower is now Plum Village slogan. And he realized that as long as I am alive, as long as I am still breathing, I can still arrive at anywhere on this planet. And my true home is not Vietnam. My true home is in the present moment. My true home is wherever I allow myself to truly be there. And that was an insight that helped him liberate himself from this feeling of isolation, this feeling of disconnection, this feeling of being left out. And now he has transmitted this to us. If one day you have an opportunity and you come visit our monastery here in Plum Village, France, we have a bell tower, and he gave the bell tower the name, I have arrived, I am home. And it's a very easy to understand statement. I have arrived, I am home. But to practice, to really feel at home in the present moment is a real art. But this practice of walking meditation, what is also beautiful about it is that it doesn't carry a form of a religion. It is just walking, but walking with full awareness. And this practice is a practice that you can use anywhere and you can apply it right away. And this morning, we will apply it all together. And I would like to share with you some of the techniques of how we can develop this practice into our daily life. So when we practice walking meditation, our practice is to bring our attention to the sole of our feet. And we really feel the contact of the heel to the sole of the feet, to the gentle lift of our toe, even pushing us a little bit forward to make the next step. So this is the image that I am offering to you. So you can really develop your concentration. Your mind is really in that movement with the sole of the feet, the toes, the heel. And our practice, we can combine it with our breath. We're always breathing, so why not take advantage of our breath to be in harmony with the body? And it's gonna be a little bit, maybe we may feel a little bit stiff at the beginning, but trust your capacity to harmonize the breath and the step, and trust your own capacity and your own ability. And so we have two styles in the practice of walking meditation in Plum Village. We have one called slow walking meditation, and it's a real practice of concentration. And for myself, we do this at least once a day after sitting meditation. And then as a community, we would collectively all practice together. And it is one breath for one step. As you breathe in, you make one step. And as you breathe out, you make the next. And it's a real investment at that moment. It's an investment into the present moment with your step and with yourself on this earth. The second style of walking meditation is we walk as a community, we walk outdoor, we walk normally like a normal person, but I think most of the time we're probably on gear 5 or gear 4, and we're gonna go maybe to gear 3, and even sometimes even gear 2. So because it's a tendency, right? Especially in society, we're in a fast-paced lifestyle now. Everything we want it instant. We even want instant enlightenment. I'm sorry to say it takes more time, but it's not like instant noodle after pouring hot water and 3 minutes, the noodle. But actually, with just a few breaths, you can arrive home. And with this, the second practice of walking meditation is you combine also the breath and the step, but it's not one step per one breath, but it can be, as we breathe in, we can make 2 to 3 steps. Our sister here, she would demonstrate. And each step we walk, there's no rigid form, but it's truly just feeling alive and being relaxed. So even in walking meditation, it's also an opportunity for our body to reconnect with our breath, to slow down and to relax. Each step can be healing. Each step can bring us more home to the body. So as she breathes in, she can take 2 to 3 steps. As she breathes out, 3 to 4 steps. Normally, our out breath is longer than our in breath, but sometimes depending on each individual. But it's not to be attached to the number, but it's to be just connected with the step and the breath. So walking like this, you become more free. And our teacher says that our step is also a contribution to this planet. If every one of us are angry, or in frustration, or in anxiety, in fear, our step carries this energy, and that is what we are giving to the earth, and the earth is transforming that energy. But how about we offer peaceful, gentle, solid step, and this is possible. And in Zen, we also add poetry, we add art to the practice. And our teacher has written many gathas, which are poems, many poems that we can adapt to our practice. So for walking meditation, one that all of us have been transmitted as his student, and I would like to transmit it to all of you today, that you can apply. When you breathe in with the first step, you can say, I have arrived. With the second step, I am home. The third step, in the here, in the now. I am solid. I am free. In the ultimate, in the present moment, I dwell. This is the gatha one more time. I have arrived. I am home. In the here, in the now. I am solid. I am free. In the ultimate, I dwell. So dear friends, I would like to invite us to pick a distance, like our sister has selected a short distance for all of us to practice together. And let us start with slow walking meditation. So with one breath, one step. And our teacher even says, if we have not felt like we have arrived in that step, take another breath to truly be there, to arrive. And then with the out breath, we follow along. So we can begin one step with one breath. During our walk, if we can feel the sensation of the heel, the sole, the toes, having its moment on touching the floor, as it also pushes us forward to the next step. So you can really feel the step that we are taking, that we are making. Arrive, arrive at home, dwelling in the here, dwelling in the now, solid as a mountain, free as the white cloud. In the ultimate, I dwell. I have arrived. I have arrived. I am home. I am home. In the here, in the here, in the now, in the now. I am solid. I am solid. I am free. I am free. In the ultimate, I dwell. Thank you, friends, for practicing with us. This practice of I have arrived, I am home can also be accompanied while we practice sitting meditation. When you first sit down and you want to reconnect with your breath, and sometimes words can accompany each breath. Sometimes even for 30 minutes of our sessions in Plum Village, I would just use arrive for in-breath, at home for out-breath, in the here for in-breath, in the now for out-breath. So the gathas, the poems that I shared can also be accompanied for our sitting meditation, especially in moments when we feel it's very difficult that our mind is quiet and just to be with the breath. We can invoke these words so that it can accompany our breath to help us be more still and arrive more into our sitting, into our body. And yesterday we shared about taking care of our strong emotions. And I like to let you know that in our training, our teacher encouraged us when we have a lot of strong emotions, not to rely on the sitting meditation, because the mind is very active during that time. Our perceptions are creating different stories at every millisecond. So it's more important to bring our practice into action, into the body. So walking meditation becomes a very essential practice that can really help embrace our emotions. You can invite the emotions to be with the steps. And this is something that I've experienced myself. I have been with my teacher as his personal attendant for a very long time. And in the monastery, we also meet difficulties, and sometimes there are some challenges also in the Sangha. But there was a particular time when we had a monastery in Vietnam, after our teacher's first trip back to Vietnam, we were able to establish a Plum Village monastery. And within 2 years, our monastery grew so fast. We had 400 new monastic that was ordained, sprouted like fresh flowers. But with the growth, there was also fear in the country. So long story short, but we were asked to be shut down, and we then later moved our monastery to Thailand, and that's why now we have new centers in Asia, in Thailand, Hong Kong, and Australia. So from the mud, there's always new conditions. But during that time, it was very, very difficult. And in our Sangha, we were hearing the difficulty that our own brothers and sisters were meeting in Vietnam, and we were in France or in America, and we felt very helpless as they were trying to shut it down, because there was also violence, there was some protests, it was very aggressive. And our teacher, who is like the spiritual father of all of these new monks and nuns, I was with Thai, it means teacher, and I felt his sadness and also his worry. And every day, and this is a Zen master, every day, Thai would practice 1 hour of walking meditation to be with him, with the feeling, to be with the emotion, and to have clarity in order to lead and to create new opportunities. So instead of being drowned in the difficulty, but to lead the emotions and transform it, and to then have clarity on seeing what are the steps that we can take now to nourish and protect these young monks and nuns. So this was something that I experienced with my teacher during that hard time. And walking meditation at that time was the life jacket. It was the savior, so that we are not overwhelmed. And Sister True Dedication and a group of brothers and sisters, we were also doing other work. We were going to embassies to share about the situations and to ask for support. And every time we felt overwhelmed and we felt not understood, the brothers and sisters would just practice walking meditation. And we were in Paris, very busy, very loud. But at that moment, it's you and your steps, you, your breath and your step. And it brings clarity, it brings peace, and it even brings strength. It brings more energy, because we are not allowing ourselves to lose energy into our worries and our frustration, because all of that is also energy. So it's more about directing our emotions and finding the energy to take care of our well-being. So walking meditation can be a very concrete practice, and we call it applied Buddhism. This is applied mindfulness in everyday life. And what I would like to encourage us is to find a distance that you can commit to each day. For example, on your way to work or on your way home, a distance that you can commit from here to there, that becomes my walking meditation. Our teacher has a staircase at the Hermitage, and he would practice walking meditation up the staircase. And he would tell us if at halfway he loses his mindfulness, he goes back down and he walks up again. And this was his practice and his own development in the art of walking meditation. And he also encouraged us to find our own distance within the monastery that we can commit to. And our teacher, the deepest aspiration, he tells us, is there should only be one style of walking. It's walking meditation. But that is the northern star that we're still walking towards. But to be more concrete and more practical, we find these distance that we can really apply it every day. And that becomes a new energy and a new way of walking for us. Sister, would you like to add? myself and Sister True Dedication and two other brother and sister, we were just at a conference in Edinburgh at a TED conference, and our sister had to represent the community and our teacher to give a TED talk. And I can't wait for all of you to hear about it. It's very beautiful. But before she went on stage, she practiced slow walking meditation for 2 whole hours to calm down all of her worries, to calm down all of her fear, all of her anxiety. So, Sister, if you can just give us a few sharing of that experience, because I was watching you very carefully, and sometimes I would walk behind her just to support her.
Well, I think it's true that in these very difficult moments, I'd never had such a difficult moment, in all honesty. You know, whenever any of you have to give your TED talk, you know, once in our lifetime, what are you going to say? And can you not forget anything? Because you have to know what you're going to say. Yeah. So I think for me, it was how to entrust. Yeah, it was a real practice of entrusting and how to embrace my anxiety and fear, also terror. I was terrified. And and use, as Brother Phaphu so beautifully described, to use my breathing. And every step was my safety, was my anchor. And so I really had that experience. So if any of you have something very scary to do or a very scary decision to make, I really encourage you to do this, because it becomes a safe haven in that moment. And what I realize is it enables what we would call our deeper consciousness, our store consciousness, to be supported. And I called on the earth, and I called on my ancestors, and I called on Tai and our wonderful elder sister, Sister Chan Kong, also to be there with me. So it can be a very nice practice to connect to interbeing. And in terms of choosing this distance in your daily life, you can choose something. It only needs to be maybe 100 yards, or it could be 200 yards. You choose the tree or the lamppost or the wall and that stretch of the sidewalk, or it could be from your doorstep to the car, or it could be when you arrive at work, from if you take the bus or public transport, you know. And I did this across London, so it's totally possible. And it became a very sacred stretch of London. From stepping onto the sidewalk, I cut through a little courtyard and over to a pedestrian crossing, but I would always walk those steps in mindfulness, and it became my special place on my morning walk to work. And so it's a very, very powerful practice when you can choose that distance. And it's like we imprint our intention on the space, and then we may forget, but the body remembers. As soon as it steps onto the sidewalk there, it knows, now I slow down. And so it's like our environment ends up helping us with our mindfulness. So that's the power of this habit and this commitment. When you can choose that space, it will be there for you when you really need it.
Oh, because it's our last session, so I have a really funny story. So walking meditation is easier to start off by slow, because we're trying to create this new habit, create this new tendency and this new way of being with the step. But walking meditation also doesn't mean slow. We even have running meditation, and there was a time, but of course we always try to walk in the style of walking meditation. And our teacher used to go on tour a lot to bring the teachings to different places of the world for friends who can't come to Plum Village. And wherever our teacher went, he would always bring at least 20 to 30 monks and nuns with him. So he would bring a sangha, a community with him. And we were very visible because of our head, our shaved head, and our brown robe. And we always go in groups, and wherever we go, a lot of people stare at us. And I love the children's reaction. They always ask, "Are you guys Jedis?" So we become quite a presence. But there was one time at the airport, we had to transfer flights, and of course we arrived and we're walking gently with peace every step in this busy airport in Italy. And we're coming to our gate, and suddenly the announcement is flight AF 425 is being transferred to gate G7, and it is a totally different gate. And Thais, our teacher, took a pause and looked at all of us, and he said, "Let's run." So Thai, our teacher, and all of these 20, 30 monks and nuns were sprinting across the airport. And I'm sure it was quite a scene. But of course, mindfulness is to be very adaptive, is to be very practical also. So I hope that we don't have also to be caught also that being mindfulness is not just slow, but mindfulness is truly to be present and to be for us to adapt in every situation, every circumstance that we meet. But it's always more pleasant, and it's always more enjoyable when we can really enjoy each step. We can enjoy the grace and the beauty of life, because if we're always going to be running, then when will we have a moment to pause and really see life as it is? So dear friends, I know we only have 3 more minutes until we end our session, but I think just like the last 2-3 sessions, we always had a little space for questions or reflections if you would like to share to the group.
Yes, I was simply demonstrating how my breathing was flowing. So for the in-breath, my hand was coming up to my chest, and for the out-breath, my hand was coming down. So it was more demonstrating for you. Sometimes, for example, when I was doing some of my slow walking before the TED Talk, I did have my hand on my heart to do some soothing on my chest. But normally I wouldn't do this movement just by myself. That was more to show to you how the breathing and the steps were coming into a natural harmony. Thank you for the question. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. That's an excellent question. And we did address this in the TED Talk. So as you may know, since our teacher's stroke, Thai has actually himself been in a wheelchair, but he still loves joining the community for walking meditation. So a very wonderful way for someone who can't themselves walk is to be in the company of those who are bringing concentration to our movement through space. And as the person in the wheelchair, we are enjoying this sense of moving through space, all the different senses. So one of the things we can have as an object of our awareness as we're walking is the feel of the breeze or the sun on our face, the changing sounds around us, the different sights, the people we may be passing on the street, allowing ourselves to have eye contact with people. So even in the sitting position, and especially if the person helping with the wheelchair or the person helping us walk is themselves mindful, we can also, even in our wheelchair or being supported, we can have a collective experience of this energy of mindfulness and connection. So it's very well possible to enjoy this while in a wheelchair or while being helped by others. And what is so incredible also to say about our teacher is in the first years after his stroke, he really wanted to train himself to be able to walk again. And at some point it would take 2 or 3 of us to help move the side that could hardly move. So one really at the level of the leg and one for Thai to balance on. And I remember when Thai first returned from the United States and came back, and we monastics gathered to greet him. And I was looking through all the robes, all the cloth of the robes, to see the wheel of his wheelchair as he was coming out. And I didn't see this wheel. And then suddenly I realized Thai was coming out walking so frail, barely able to hold his own weight. And he had such a big grin on his face. He was like, I am walking, like your teacher is walking. And like the pride and the joy. And for me, like that was such a deep teaching that even in the greatest adversity, and I don't know how painful and how challenging that was in that moment for Thai to take those steps, but the joy it gave him to be somehow upright, even with all this support, to be able to feel the earth there under his feet. And for me, that was such an incredible teaching. And then he pointed with his left hand to the sky, like, my children, you know, I was crying already by that point. I was so moved. He's like, are you enjoying the blue sky? And then to his lips, are you smiling? Unbelievable. So even in adversity, this practice can be very powerful.
We actually, in our own community, we also have a program that we send a lot of books to friends in prison. And we also have the lay Dharma teacher that go and to share these practices. And our teacher has also shared practices to friends in prison. And our teacher shared with the prisoner that even in the cell, that is an opportunity to still be alive and to still be able to feel the body. That is an opportunity of life. So we do have books that we can encourage that you may like to send, and we've had a few prisoners write to our teacher and to share that with this practice of walking meditation that he applies every day in his cell, it has become his anchor, so he doesn't lose himself in a despair. And we even have one prisoner who wrote in, and we sent him a book called Stepping into Freedom. But this book is more for monastic training, but because it has some gathas about walking, he later on shared that he now practiced like a monk without the monk form. So it's also just to say that walking meditation can transcend all different situations. Even our own eldest sister, Sister Jang Kong, during her time of working with Thai to call for peace, and especially when after the war, our teacher and Sister Jang Kong helped hire boat to rescue boat people. At one moment, Sister Jang Kong was in prison in Singapore, and she practiced walking meditation the whole night in order to calm herself and to make sure she doesn't fall into despair. And so I just want to let you know, Janet, that this practice can be practiced at any situation. Yeah, thank you.
And the book of Thai's teachings to prisoners is called Be Free Where You Are. And the freedom is the freedom from anger, the freedom from hatred, the freedom from craving. There's still many kinds of freedom we can touch even inside a prison cell. And as our brother shared, many people have testified to that. And you can write to our publishing house, Parallax Press, and they can send free copies of different books you may need for your work in the prisons. So back to you, Tia. I don't know if you'd like to share any closing words.
Thank you, Sister True Dedication and Brother Fapu, for bringing these time-tested teachings and translating them into the needs of our present day to meet the moment and to help us all be mindful wherever we are and whatever we're doing. Thank you for your generous contribution to our community.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, dear friends. Have a wonderful, wonderful day. And I just want to say thank you to our tech team and to Hunter too. So our team will come just to say goodbye to everyone. So this is the whole team. you. You only saw two, but this is
This is our inner family.
This is the inner
online family.
and maybe I'd like to offer the song "I Have Arrived, I'm Home" because it's actually our song. I have arrived, I am home, in the here and in the now. I have arrived, I am home, in the here and in the now. I am solid, I am free, I am solid, I am free. In the ultimate I dwell, in the